Linda of Linda Bratten Creations, and welcome to my sewing studio, where I hope to inspire you to live life creatively. But before we get started with our workshop today, take a moment and check out my website, lindabrattencreations.com, where you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter, check out my latest blog post, and even find a link to join the Linda Be Creative Facebook group. Well, let's get on to our sewing studios. Hi, in today's studio, what we're going to do is we're going to be adding some color or pigment to our already thread sketched blocks using just a simple tool, Crayola crayons. Now, something that I look for when I'm shopping for crayons is I don't want one that is so waxy the pigment will just melt away when I heat set it. So I haven't tested all the brands on the market, just so you know, but I have found that these have a substantial amount of pigment that can remain on my blocks when I color them in. Now, the block we're working with today is going to be the Mama Bear block from my Goldilocks and the Three Bear quilt pattern. And once you have it thread sketched, what I recommend that you do is turn it over and remove all the threads. Any threads or any creases that you might have with your stabilizer will transfer into bumps and lines when you go to color or apply the medium. Now, for my actual quilt, I'm going to be using this Stonehenge fabric from Northcott Fabrics, but I always recommend that you do a test or have a test block ready. So we're going to practice adding pigment to this block here that is on some muslin. Now, I do recommend that you get yourself a nice, smooth, hard surface. This is just an ordinary plastic clipboard, and what that does is that gives me some resistance and a nice surface to add the pigment to the fabric. Also, you'll notice I have not trimmed away my stabilizer. I'm leaving it in. If I don't have a product that has stabilizer, I will actually fuse some freezer paper behind it because you're going to be pushing and pulling the fibers, and we don't want to distort our fibers terribly bad. So some of the other things that you're going to need today, of course, are the crayons. You're going to want a sharpener with a reservoir that'll collect the shavings as you sharpen your crayons, because whatever remains on your work surface then will get transferred to other fabrics. You're going to want to have some sort of fibers to absorb the wax when we go to heat set it, and I'm just using ordinary paper towels. You also need a nice ironing surface and an iron. So to get started, I'm just going to show you a few things, a few tricks per se, on how to do some Crayola crayons with your quilt blocks. Now, what I like to do is I do like to highlight first. I know it sounds silly, but if I can add just a little bit of a highlight where I think Mama Bear might need a little pickup, and I'm just rubbing the crayon directly onto the fabric. And you know, she might actually have it down here too. And I always envisioned her as being kind of a redhead, so I'm just going to go ahead and go along and add my mahogany brown color here to the fur. And I'm trying to get it into the crevices where the stitching has gone. And I'm pushing fairly hard. I wouldn't say I'm like breaking the crayon, but I have a nice firm grasp. I am using lots of the crayons, so go ahead and give yourself a new box. You are so worth it. And this project is really, really nice to get youth involved, or even those who may have had a creative life but are now in their advanced ages where they no longer can handle small needlework, but they can go ahead and grab a crayon and color with you. And then you'd have a wonderful memory quilt on top of a fun conversation piece. And I'm not going to do too much brown. I think her jowls will actually probably be a different color. Oops, got some thread here. But you can see how I just colored right over that highlight, and it does give her kind of like a brow formation, but it doesn't take long. Once again, just coloring straight over my highlights, kind of blending in my colors. I might actually even look and give her just a little bit more of an orange tone, I think. Well, I think I want to use this one on her cheeks. Give her some of that fun, glamorous look here. Come back and finish coloring her fur. Now, of course, your coloring strokes will be directional, so you always want to color with your fur and not go too much against it, because sometimes they do show even after we heat set things. I'm just going to slide this over so I have it totally on my hard surface here. That's going to make a world of difference when you color. And you can come back in and make it darker where you want it to be more pigmented and lighter. You can leave it. I'm also going to go ahead and maybe give her some lighter colored ears. Maybe she's had highlights put in. We don't know about Mama Bear here. And where her actual hair is, I'm going to kind of blend both of these in, giving it kind of a shading here where it might be just a little darker, even on the bottom of the ears here. I am going to use a lighter color for the inner ear, maybe more of a salmon. Where was that? I think it was this one that I actually used for the cheeks. Come back in here and give this just a little bit of shading here. Do you want to use a lighter brown around her eyes? Kind of highlight them. In places where you have lots and lots of stitching, sometimes it's hard to get it all the way in, and you might actually end up somewhat tinting the actual stitching threads. And maybe her jowls will even be lighter like this. Let's see if we can blend that in here and give her kind of a nice face front. And whether you do circles or straight lines, that'll also impact how the pigment's applied onto your fabric and the shape it takes on. I'm always thinking with the fur, maybe lines might actually be better. But you never know. Maybe she keeps this trimmed nice and short. I'm going to give her kind of a dark brown nose. I think I gave Papa Bear a blacker one. We're making her look a little bit different, a little more delicate. I want this to kind of look smooth also. See if I can come back in, just give a little bit more. Now I envisioned her to be not only a redhead, but one with bright green eyes. I think she's one fun gal here. Once again, just using that point to really push in the color. And she is a mama bear. I'm going to test a little bit over here and something that might be, I think I do like that for her lips. I want her to have some nice rosy lips here and a beautiful smile. All right, so now we're ready to move on to the second part of our process. I'm just going to fill in this square too. This involves getting your heat source ready and nice and hot. It is a hot, dry iron. There is no steam involved, but you do want a good pressing surface. And on my pressing surface, I am just going to layer up some paper towels here because I do not want to ruin my pressing surface. And then I'm going to start, and on this, I usually start with the Crayola side up, and then the actual paper towel over it. Lots of times when you have thread sketching or embroidery, they always want you to do it the opposite so you don't embed. But because I want to get the heat to melt out the wax, I want to be able to push that heat right on top of it. Now, some things to consider. The wax can permeate or spread your stitch lines, and that can maybe give you a halo that you hadn't anticipated. Sometimes the fiber content, of course, if you don't have 100% cotton, that will make a difference. Now I'm going to lift this and you're going to see a negative of the mama bear. All right, and that's to be expected. That just tells me that I'm pushing that wax all the way through, and I'm just going to keep adding paper towels and heat and pressure. I am kind of pressing hard here to get the pigment to go into the fibers. But you can imagine this is a quick and easy project that you and your favorite young quilter, your favorite old quilter can get to create together, and you can make lovely, lovely memories. Now I have some of these, I have some that may have been done, I would guess, in the 40s or the 50s on tea towels where they had hand embroidered. So if you're not a machine, a thread painter, you can, by all means, hand embroider these designs and then come back in and even add the pigment later. But the neat thing about this is that other than the heat setting it, there's not a lot of skill involved or a lot of expense. But this is just a fun way to add some color to our blocks, and it gives it one of those, kind of like a retro coloring book is what I envision with this. So this is the block actually sewn together. Then once I get it all colored, I will trim it up, and so it fits into my bear paw, that traditional block that I'm enhancing. But this is the mama bear. I notice I did even lighter eyes on this one than I did on this one. This one shows a little bit more of the shading. I may have to change it. I can almost like her blush on her cheeks a little better. But just some other samples that I have here. You can do this with a variety of different redwork embroidery designs that you may have. You can even do some nice shadowing behind them. And of course, lots and lots of color blending to get those flowers to pop and sing. And you can even take, if you're not into the retro 30s look, you can take it and make it very contemporary. Well, that's it for today's program. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be up to date with what's happening next in my creative life. And if you're on Facebook, be sure to join my Linda B. Creative Facebook group. It goes along, it's a companion group for my free monthly newsletter, Linda B. Creative. Thanks and have a great day.